All right, YouTube, how you doing? Welcome back to the channel. Week number 14. We got the Sunday games to dive into in today's video, with the exception of Sunday Night Football. That will be its own video here on the channel as a separate video, but all of the other Sunday games we're going to dive into in this video. I'm going to give you my prediction on the side. I'll give you my prediction on the total. If we have any plays like player props that we like within the game as well, we'll let you know right then and there. But guys, keep an eye on the pinned comment for all of my final plays so that I'm actually rolling with myself. Keep an eye down on the pinned comment. In terms of how we did last week, this was Thanksgiving week, so we only had the Thanksgiving day and then the Sunday video. Tassos filled in for the Monday night game. Across those two videos, though, we do make a small profit. We shall take. And then this week, Thursday Night Football was off to a decent start as well. We split a unit on two different overs, one alternate, one actual over for Green Bay and Detroit. Sam Laporta over 38.5 receiving yards, and then our loss was Jaden Reed over 3.5 receptions. I mean, Jaden Reed got one target. I don't know what I was thinking there. But nonetheless, we are moving on to the Sunday games here. Guys, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. Drop your favorite plays and what you think are good looks down in the comments below. A ton of people are helping out a ton of other people down in the comments with all those plays. So make sure to go ahead and interact down there. But like I said, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. Let's rock here. The first game we're looking at is kind of a messy one, and there are a few messy, non-sexy games on the slate this week. Handful of them, but we're starting off with the Titans taking on the Jags. Right now, Titans sitting as 3.5-point favorites over the Jags. I've seen some fours on some other places, so make sure to keep an eye on that. And that total sitting at 40. Where I'd go in this one is probably a slight lean towards the under, first and foremost. It is a low number, so I don't know if we get there ourselves and roll with it and lock it in as a final play. But in terms of a lean, I just can't really trust either one of these offenses. So far this year, Titans 4th worst, or I think it's 5th worst in terms of points per game. Jacksonville 7th worst. Tennessee's defense has stepped up at times as well. I'm not going to say that about Jacksonville, but either way, I just don't trust either one of these offenses to truly get to, say, 21 points, especially with the injuries on the Jacksonville side of things. Obviously, with that Trevor Lawrence hit, he's on IR now. Mac Jones getting the start, which he's had a fair share of his play so far this year. And then Tennessee, on the other hand, they've had some injury woes as well at the quarterback position. But I just don't trust either offense. Give me the under. If I had to lean towards a spread side here, it's probably going to be Tennessee because they are the home team. This Jacksonville team is yet to win a game when they are on the road. They're 0-6. Tennessee's just 1-4 at home. They only have 3 wins. But this is like lesser of two evils, right? Give me Tennessee in this spot, minus the 3.5. Do I love it? No. If we were to ever have to roll with this, I'd probably buy a point to get it to minus 2.5, something like that. Within a field goal. But again, this isn't the sexiest of matchups on the board today. No major player props either. All right, next one up, I actually think this could be a good game. We have Minnesota taking on Atlanta here. Minnesota favored by 6. That total sitting at 46 right now. Atlanta has been in a rut, right? They were flying high. They took that bad loss to Seattle that was like 5 or 6 weeks ago, and then they've just been kind of either, the slightest of ups and then just down. Like, they've been on a little bit of a ride. Now, that being said, they played some good teams. They played some bad teams in there. I do think that this is a spot in which people are kind of down on this Atlanta team overall. Minnesota's a very good team. No one's saying that they're not, right? The record this year speaks for itself. 10-2. They're 7-4-1 against the spread. 5-1 at home. But Atlanta has a winning record on the road, and I do think this is a buy low spot for Atlanta. If you were to have this matchup, a few weeks back, you're probably looking at Atlanta maybe, underdogs by 3.5 or something like that. You know what I mean? But now, because we're sitting here when Atlanta's at their low, Minnesota looks good. They've won 5 straight games. We have a 6-point spread. Now, even that said, 5 straight games for Minnesota, right? They haven't really been covering. They're 2-1 in those 5 straight. Indianapolis, Jacksonville, Tennessee, Chicago, Arizona. It's not like they've been fully tested, through the gauntlet in these last 5 weeks or so. Whereas Atlanta, like I said, some good teams. They played the Chargers and Denver, 2 really good defenses. They lost to New Orleans. That's a bad one. They beat Dallas. They beat Tampa Bay. I thought those were 2 good wins. Like, I think I have a little bit of faith in this Atlanta team, especially because they're getting the 6 points. Do I think they win it? No. I mean, yeah, if you want to take a long shot or something, that plus 200 for them to win, sure. I wouldn't be shocked if they do, but I do think that, as long as they're healthy, which Kirk is healthy, looks like Drake London's going to play, Darnell Mooney coming back, right? Bijan Robinson, and their defense does have some dings on it, but for the most part, they've been dealing with the same injuries, so they should be fairly healthy with Simmons, Bates, and whatnot in the safety positions. I think Atlanta stays in this game. So maybe it's crazy because of what we've seen them doing, but I'm buying low on them. I think that they do have a little bit of a bounce back here. So give me them plus the 6 points. That total is at 46. I don't necessarily love a lot of points in this game, but that 46 is, I could see this being like a 24-23 type of game. You know what I mean? And that is slightly over the mark. So I will lean towards the over, but just know I don't think we're running away with the points here in one. I'm not thinking this is going to be like a shootout. I just think that number is a little bit too low for my liking, especially when you throw in the fact that, okay, yeah, I'm giving the credit to the defenses here, but Atlanta's defense over the last 3 games, 30th in terms of passing yards per game, allowing 268.3. Minnesota is, allowing 225 ish on through the air. So both teams have had some struggles against the pass. If we have Kirk and Sam Darnold, 2 trustworthy quarterbacks, they could light up the secondaries here. And that's kind of brings me to the point of what we'd look at from a player prop perspective. I would go ahead and consider some of the wide receivers here. Definitely wide receiver 1. So if we're looking at Justin Jefferson and Drake London, I like both of them maybe to score a touchdown as well as their yards here. So Drake London over 5.5 receptions. He's been getting so many targets. He's hit this in 8 of his last 12 games, so 8 of 12 on the season. He has a 27.3% rate in terms of his target rate. In the red zone is where I really do, and Tasso called this out over on H2H, the show that we do on the main channel in terms of going back and forth each week with our NFL picks. Drake London, 49% red zone target share. So I like him to score a touchdown this week and get really good odds, plus 160. On the other side, I mentioned, right, Justin Jefferson. I think this could be a spot for him as well to score. He hasn't scored in, I think it's like 6 or 7 weeks. He's definitely due. It's only plus 100, but I like this spot for him as well. 84.5 receiving yards is his line. I might even look at his longest reception because I could see him catching a bomb. Like I just said, he hasn't really been doing all that tremendous. He's 6 of 12 in terms of hitting that 84.5, right? But if you look at his longest receptions, all but 3 games this season, he hasn't had a catch of over 26.5 yards. So Justin Jefferson and Drake London, 2 player prop looks that I'd consider as well. Keep an eye on the final plays to see if and what we do end up rolling with. Speaking of player props, guys, Justin Herbert has a 0.5 total yards line for Sunday Night Football over on Underdog. He can run for it. He can throw for it. Any way he gets 1 yard, this will cash the pick in your entry, guys. If you don't know what Underdog is, it is very simple. It's a DFS, daily fantasy sports app in which you pick higher or lower based on player set projections. Obviously, we go higher for the 0.5 total yards. You add those picks into your entry. The more you get correct, the more you get paid out. You can win up to 1,000x your money over on Underdog. So if you sign up today with the link in the pinned comment and the description, I'll put it in both places, whichever is easiest for you. You sign up today using that link. You're going to get this free square to add to your entry, right? You're also going to get up to $1,000 in a deposit bonus. It's an absolute no-brainer. Go ahead and check out Underdog, guys. I have so much fun using this app throughout the weekend in the NFL, NBA, everything like that. If you go sign up, you will not regret it. And even if this is just for that 0.5 total yards line, like think about it. You put this with one of your other favorite props for the weekend, and boom, simple as that. You're well on your way to building the bankroll over there. So go ahead and check out Underdog. Again, those links are down below. Let's get back to these games. Eagles taking on the Panthers. This is another one where it's like, seems obvious. We saw the Panthers kind of, they've looked good against the spread in the last 4 weeks. The Eagles are, I have the futures on the Eagles to win the NFC and the Super Bowl, so obviously I've been high on the Eagles. The closing line value I got on that, I did that at the beginning of the year, is tremendous now. Obviously they should win this game. That is a huge number. I mentioned the Panthers looking okay in the last 4 weeks. They're 4-0 against the spread. They covered against the Bucs, covered against the Chiefs. They beat the Giants outright as dogs. They beat New Orleans outright as dogs. So, yeah, you could say what you want. Maybe they're looking okay. Maybe Bryce Young looks okay. But realistically, this is the Eagles. They are rolling. We just saw the Eagles with one of their toughest sort of games to date this year, right, against Baltimore. And they beat them. They were dogs in that one. On the road, they beat Baltimore by 5 as 3-point dogs. So this Eagles team, I do think cruises in this one. Do I like to lay that 13.5? No. What I would consider more so is probably taking a peek at something like a team total over for the Eagles, over 27.5, maybe over 29.5 if you want to go a little bit more ballsy. I do kind of understand that, right? I think Jalen Hurts has a good game. Saquon has a good game. One player prop that I might consider, I really do wish Dallas Goedert was playing. He's out in this game. One spot that I would like would be Goddard, but he is not playing. He's already been ruled out with a knee. But we do have his backup, Grant Calcaterra, here. here. In his last 2 games without Goddard, so that was at the beginning of November and then early against Cincinnati, he did hit the over in his receiving yards, and I do think that this is going to be a spot in which the tight end matters. Even if we flash into our dashboard here, I could show you guys. Right down here, Carolina, this is DVOA adjusted defense versus position. I know it's a mouthful, but it's essentially just production of those positions versus this defense, and the uptick or downturn, you know what I mean? So Carolina allowing a 43% production increase to tight ends. Obviously, we have Devontae Smith, A.J. Brown, Saquon, these amazing skill players for the Eagles. They'll probably get a lot of the workload, but I do think at some point the tight ends with these little dump up passes, maybe, if they're trying to chew clock because they're up, that type of thing, might find him. Do I think he's going to get a ton of targets in this game? No, he did have 5 targets at the beginning of November, caught all 5 of them. Average yards per reception was like 6, so it's the exact type of pass that I'm thinking. With Goddard, absent here, maybe there's a look for Alcantara. I know it's kind of a weird one, but I could definitely see myself getting a little freaky with it, because I do think that that's one that no one's really going to want to look at. You know what I mean? Even his receptions, now that I look at it, over 2.5 for even money. You can go over 1.5 on some DFS apps like Prize Picks and get some decent value there as well. So I don't know. Am I crazy to be looking at Grant Alcantara? Probably. We'll sound it. We'll sound the psycho alert alarm. I get it. It's pretty damn crazy. All right, Jets taking on the Dolphins. This is probably just a spot in which I'd say, screw it, let's fade the Jets. I think Miami looked pretty good to some degree in the second half there against Green Bay. They won the second half. Now, was it messy? Yes, it was 8-6, so what's that, 14-6 in the second half. So it's not like they were tremendous, but Green Bay on that Thanksgiving Day game had 14 first quarter points and 10 second quarter points. Then the defense of Miami kind of started to look a little better in the second half. The offense obviously scored some points, so maybe they come into this one with a little bit more momentum. And the Jets, on the other hand, I just can't seem to trust them. Like, they're doing everything possible to lose games. Now, what I will say and give a little credence to is that 6 number is massive. So if someone's sitting here being like, 6 is a little bit too much. Do I think Miami wins the game? Sure, but 6 just seems a little bit too much. I'll give you credit there. I just cannot bring myself to think about making money on a Sunday by taking the Jets. GuyBostonSports.com/store, pick up the merch. But I just cannot bring myself to the Jets. So by default, I'm looking at Miami. I would also consider a Miami look at a team total over. So right now, if you take this one, we can get an updated line for you guys here. Miami team total over. You're looking at over, I guess we'd have to go over 23.5, -140 over on DK. They've hit that in 4 of their last 6, and I don't think that this Jets defense is all that great, you know what I mean? So, yeah, it could be a decent spot for them. And again, I hope this Miami defense can kind of shore up against the Jets offense, because that would help them towards the spread there. In terms of what we're looking at from player prop perspective, very similar to what we just looked at. The Dolphins, like the Panthers, do allow a little bit more of a production to the tight end position of the Jets. So yeah, I'll look at Tyler Conklin. His receptions line is at 2.5. Is he getting the targets that we like? No. I mean, he had 5 targets last week. Before that, he only had 3 straight weeks of just 2 targets apiece. So not all that tremendous, but he did have 4 catches last week, and now you're getting over 2.5 for +126. Yeah, doesn't seem like that bad of a spot, you know what I mean? +126 for him to get 3 catches. He has hit this in 6 of his last 10 games here, and when they do play Miami, he's hit it in 2 straight games. So maybe there is a good look there, especially for the plus money. All right, Pittsburgh taking on the Browns. We did see this matchup a couple weeks back, right? And Cleveland won as 3-point dogs. They won outright 24-19. There was some weather in that one. I think that this is probably a bounce back spot for Pittsburgh. Just overall, they do have the better defense and whatnot. Now, 6.5 points, I don't know if I totally trust their kind of get away from it and run away with it type of spot, but they did it against the Bengals. So it gives me a little hope that this offense is still just going to consistently play well with Russ under center, right? So I do like it. And obviously now we have the defensive back and George Pickens kind of going at it on social media. It's going to look, that's going to be pretty damn cool. So, I mean, in that spot, I'm going to trust the guy, George Pickens. He is a grinder, so I do like George Pickens over receptions. I believe it's 4.5 right now. Even odds to get 5. That's over on DraftKings. I like this spot. Last time he played Cleveland, which a couple of times back, that was in the snow and whatnot, he had 4 receptions, so you know, if they do have decent weather, which update on the weather here, it's just going to be super, super cold. I don't think it's supposed to rain, snow, or anything. If he has decent weather, I think he gets 1 more catch. So I like George Pickens. I like the Steelers. 6.5 is definitely a lot, but where I might go instead of, so George Pickens I definitely like, but in terms of how I would play the side here, I might mix an under with the spread. And like if you guys have watched all year, what I do by that is instead of having the Steelers have to win by 6.5, right? I might just take a peek at the Browns team total and take an under. So right now, Cleveland, you can take under 19.5, under 20.5 for good odds. You know what I mean? Minus 125 for under 19.5 over on MGM. So I like that. I think that they struggle against this team. And even though they did look very good against Pittsburgh in that snow game, it was a Thursday night or Monday Night Football, one of the prime times. I give them credit there, but just like we've seen, Cleveland be able to do. They had that game. They had the shootout against Broncos. At some point, then Jameis Winston takes that big step down. Do you know what I mean? Like, he's done this. He did it when they played Baltimore. He puts up 29. They beat Baltimore. Next week against a good defense, the Chargers, 10 points. Then 14 points. And then, 24 against Pittsburgh. Then 32 against Denver. You think Jameis Winston's going to put up, 40 points? I don't think so. You know what I mean? Like, he's going to fall flat. So as much as we love the guy, we do know how inconsistent he is. And I think this is going to be the kind of down part of the roller coaster. So give me the team total under for the Browns and George Pickens over in receptions. Those are probably the two spots that I look at in this one. All right, Tampa Bay taking on Las Vegas. This obviously is a game that does matter playoffs-wise for Tampa Bay and whatnot. So I do think that they come out playing well. Aiden O'Connell looked okay on that Black Friday game, right, against the Chiefs. But I don't know if he does that 2 games in a row, that type of thing. Like, this is still not a very, no matter who's playing quarterback for this Raiders team, still not the best of offenses, right? So far this season, 26 in terms of offensive points per game, averaging just 18.7. In the last 3, they've bumped it up to 20 a little bit. But even when Tampa Bay seems to be playing down football, like not at their exact peak with injuries and whatnot. Obviously, they still have Godwin out. Mike Evans is back. Good for them. But even still, they're still seemingly a team that will go out there and get you, 24 minimum points, right? They did have 20 against San Francisco a couple weeks back, but before that, you're looking at, or I guess in their last 10, right? Last 9 games, I should say, because this is after that stinker against Denver, right? Way back in the beginning of the year. They go 33-30, 51-31, 26-24, 20, 30, 26. I don't think the Raiders have the firepower or offensive ability to just keep up with them. So I'll lean towards the Bucs here, minus the touchdown and extra point, as well as an over in the game, because I also think that Las Vegas, if they can get you 14 or 20 points, I think that this Bucs team should be able to score. Now, we may feel a little bit more comfortable just looking at Tampa Bay and their team total. That way we don't necessarily have to worry about Las Vegas, but I haven't mentioned much about the Tampa Bay defense, right? I don't think that they're all that tremendous. So I am kind of comfortable with the Raiders being able to at least contribute to this one. So yeah, if you like the idea of Tampa Bay kind of carrying the workload, which they probably will, then I might interest you in a team total over 24.5 or 23.5. But I'm not sitting here all that scared of the over in general. And then no major player props I'm really loving in this one. Overall, I don't mind guys like in the wide receivers on either side. I don't think neither secondary is going to be all that great. We could also take a peek at maybe Cade Otton to score a touchdown or something like that, because he's obviously had a very, very good year. And for over 4.5 receptions also, he's hitting 6 of his last 10, and he hasn't hit in 2 weeks. So maybe, since Mike Evans has come back, it's been a little difficult. But for plus 115, we could find some value there. So any pass catchers on either side, I don't mind that. All right, another one of those kind of messy matchups here. You New York Giants taking on the Saints. Giants getting 4.5 points. The total is at 41. Simply, I think that the Saints team is in a better position, which isn't saying much, because I don't think the Saints team is in a great spot, right? But this Giants team, I really don't have much faith in. Even watching them on Thanksgiving, right, against Dallas, it's like they looked like they could compete in that game, and then Dallas is also in such a bad spot to beat them by 7. I see the Saints being able to beat them by, at least 5. Did they look good against the Rams? No, but they did beat Cleveland by a bunch, right? They beat Atlanta. They kept it close with Carolina. The Saints team to some degree, I just think is in a better spot. But like I mentioned, if you're on the Saints or the Giants confidently this weekend, we can share the psycho alert alarm there, because that's just, it's a nutty spot to be in, right? With all the games out there, all the matchups, I feel like this is one of those that's you're really touching that game. I'd also look at the under, just because I think it's going to be a messy game, kind of on that same note. But again, I don't know if I really jump at the bit to try and to get anything down on this game. All right, this is an important one. You have the Cardinals taking on the the Seahawks. These two teams just played a couple weeks ago, and the Cardinals ended up losing that one. It was a messy game. Seattle wins 16. I think that was the rainy game, right? 16-6. But you have Seahawks atop their division at 7-5. Cardinals right behind them at 6-6. The Cardinals are home here. They're favored by 2.5, and I'll first and foremost say that I think you can make an argument either way in this one. I'm going to make the argument for the Cards. I do think that they, being at home is going to be huge here. The fact that they lost the last game that these two teams played, I think is going to be massive as well. They are relatively healthy, which is obviously good. Seattle, I wouldn't say is banged up either, but Seattle could have easily lost that game last week. Do you know what I mean? Like, they got handed that victory. They got handed that victory by the Jets because the Jets stink out loud. Cardinals coming off of 2 straight losses, one being that messy Seattle game, which I think helps this spot for them to kind of be like, let's freaking go, right? And then they lose to Minnesota with a last-minute Aaron Gordon, was it a run or a touchdown catch, and that type of thing. So it's like they lost the heartbreaker there. I think it was like a short pass, if I'm not mistaken. I was watching that game at a bar, so things are looking a little doubled. But either way, to me, it's like this Arizona team could have won last week. They have that taste in their mouth of the loss against Seattle. In terms of how they've been playing lately, yeah, the offense hasn't looked all that great, but I wouldn't sit here and tell you that Seattle's offense has looked all that tremendous, right? And in terms of how I think they win this game is most likely with controlling the game with James Conner and whatnot. So, yeah, I like him maybe in his attempts and stuff, but my favorite spot here is going to be Arizona minus the 2.5. But I will admit, you can definitely make an argument for Seattle, especially coming off of a win last week. And obviously they beat them last time they played and that type of thing. So I get that side of it. I just don't know if I'd fully buy into it. Like before those two fluky type losses, one with all the rain and then two, obviously Arizona's going to play worse than rain than Seattle. Those are like polar opposites in terms of weather comfortability. But then that Minnesota, spot, this Cardinals team was on a 4-game win streak, so I think they get right back to it. Total's at 44. I don't have the strongest take on this one, but the last time they played, it was low scoring, and I think James Conner's going to be the key to this one. So maybe I look at an under just due to the fact that I think both teams should kind of emphasize the run if they do want to kind of expose or get to the soft spots of the defense. Do I think either defense, like I mentioned, is all that good? No, but I do think that they should be able to move the ball running, and that's been something that Seattle's had a tough time doing this season. 4th fewest rushing yards per game. It's gotten a little bit better as of late, but I think that's how you get to Arizona. I don't think that they're going to want to sling it around and put the ball in Geno's hand to potentially make some mistakes. You know what I mean? I think it's going to be a safe football game because of the situation. All right, San Fran taking on the Bears. The Bears, obviously, injury news on the San Francisco side of things with C-Mac, and I guess there are some injuries on the Chicago side of things. DeAndre Swift, I believe, is going to play. If he doesn't, Johnson's also out, which is going to be tough from the running back position. DJ Moore is questionable, but he played in practice. Keenan Allen, full participant in practice. So a lot of guys that are listed on the injury report here to potentially keep an eye on, like Brock Purdy also. He's full participant in practice, though. Overall, this is a spot in which I think this game can go either way. I'm going to take the points with Chicago. Are they playing the best football? I wouldn't sit here and blow smoke up your you-know-what, but they're keeping some games close. They're 2-0-1 against the spread in their last 3 games, and all 3 of those teams are better than San Francisco: Green Bay, Minnesota, and Detroit. The fact that they battled back and made that a game in Detroit speaks a lot to Chicago, because I was sitting here being like, oh, maybe it's because Detroit's defense isn't all that good. Then we saw Detroit play against Green Bay. Fact, that defense is a lot worse with all the injuries, right? But they hung in there offensively with Detroit as well, like a 23-20 game. Yes, Detroit slowed down offensively, but I thought it was like a spot in which maybe it's just a fluke, or Detroit's defense, like, no, that just is what it is. And Chicago did what they had been doing. They've lost the last 3 games by a combined 7 points: 20-19 against Green Bay, 30-27 against Minnesota, 23-20 against Detroit. Those are 3 of the better teams in the league. So yeah, give me them plus the 3 points here. This is obviously a spot in which it screams, like, I wouldn't be surprised if the public is all over. In fact, we can check that, right? See if the public is all over the Bears because of everything. Yeah, 65% of the bets, 87% of the money on Chicago. So, it doesn't surprise me that the public's all over it, but I really can't get to the 49ers. This 49ers team is not the 49ers team that we know. They got smoked by Buffalo. They played Green Bay, and I already mentioned Chicago played Green Bay 20-19, right? San Francisco played Green Bay 38-10. Seattle, they lose 20-17. Like, common opponent there, Green Bay. One team looked a lot better against them. In terms of what we have from a total perspective, I'll lean towards an under. I think that favors Chicago here in this spot. Obviously, that offense can be good and has looked good, but even still, some of those games, like 2 of those 3 that I mentioned, were lowish scoring games. 23-20 and then 20-19. Yeah, that 30-27 game kind of blows this number away against Minnesota, but to me, San Francisco's offense just hasn't looked good. 17, 10, and 10 in terms of their last 3, in terms of points scored. So yeah, if these 2 teams just keep doing what they're doing, looks like a Chicago keeping this one close and an under spot overall. All right, Rams taking on the Bills. This is our last game for this video. Again, Sunday Night Football will be its own video posted on the channel. But Rams-Bills here, I already gave a pick for this game in H2H. I like the over. I don't think either Buffalo's defense is good, but I don't think that it's incredibly special. And the Rams defense, I don't think is all that great. And the way Buffalo has been scoring, like, they've been ridiculous. You know what I mean? Like, they've been absolutely ridiculous this season. Let's count backwards of their games. 35, 30, 30, 30, 31, 34, 23, 20, 10, 47. Those are the last 10. They've been scoring. If they can get to a good number here, this 49, I don't see the Rams having trouble getting to, 24 to 27 points. Like, that's a good offense too. So I immediately jump to the over. We're going to have good weather. Not that it would matter because it's at the Rams are home. But yeah, I like the over 49 here in this spot. I believe you can get over 49.5 for even odds. At least you could earlier in the week when I took it. So yeah, this is a spot in which I like that. If I had to make a spread pick here, I would still look at Buffalo. I talked a little bit about it on H2H, but my long story short rant would be the fact that people are still talking about the Chiefs or, even the Eagles or Ravens or Lions. Like, this is a Buffalo team that you could debate and argue is the best team in the league all around, and nobody seems to agree with that as good as they are. So they're underrated. I think the fact that this line is 3.5 kind of seems trappy, but we could probably buy it down for decent odds to say something like 2.5 and then pretty much just go win the game by more than a field goal to Buffalo, right? So that's where I would go. I think even though everyone recognizes and knows that they're amazing and one of the best teams in the league, I still feel like they're somewhat underrated, which is crazy to say, but it is the truth. So I like Buffalo as well as the over in this spot. If I were to take something from a player prop perspective, I think it might be Kyren Williams. Like, Buffalo has been really, really good defensively this year, but so far in the last few weeks, they've kind of struggled against the rush, allowing 116 on the ground per game, which is the 12th most, so the 12th worst rush defense. So I could see them doing that. And obviously the Rams haven't had that big spark of Williams or anything in the last few weeks or so. They've been passing the ball really well, but I think Buffalo's going to prepare for the pass, leaving Williams kind of open to run around. I mean, his line is like 67.5. He's been absolutely demolishing that line for the most part of the season. Yeah, 67.5, you can get plus 100 right now. On the year, all but 3 times he's hit it, and in his last 10 games, he's just hit it in 9 of his last 10, with 62 in the game that he didn't. That was against Miami, who isn't fantastic against the rush, but not a bad run defense. So I like Williams as a decent look for a player prop spot here. But guys, that is going to wrap it up for today's show. If you made it this far in the video, go ahead and comment 28. Let me know that you made it all the way through. I do truly appreciate it. Again, go cop the merch. Make money on Sunday. GuyBostonSports.com/store. Appreciate everyone tuning in. Through 13 weeks, we've had 10 profitable weeks. They're not always the craziest and most profitable. Sometimes it's like picking up 0.1 units, you know what I mean? But we've been in the red 3 times, been in the green, even if it's small, it's still green, 10 times. Let's see if we can keep that going. We're off to a good start with the Week 14 Thursday Night Football, so let's keep that momentum going. We've had a fantastic football year. We'll catch you guys in the next one, all right? Peace out.